Good day to all of you. Today we will do the last literary term prescribed in your syllabus, and that is meter. Now, what is meter? Meter in poetry is the systematic arrangement of language in a series of rhythmic movements which involve stressed and unstressed syllables. I hope you must have become familiar with this concept when we did blank verse yesterday along with the iambic pentameter. So, meter is a poetic measure which is related to the length and rhythm of the poetic line. The use of this literary term meter dates back to the 14th century, where it meant versification. Now, what are the components of meter? There are two basic components of meter. Number one, the number of syllables in a line, and number two, the pattern of emphasis. Emphasis means stressed or unstressed that these syllables are arranged in. Now, stressed syllables are emphasized while unstressed syllables are not. For example, if you take the word atom, the first syllable is emphasized and the second is not. And if you take the word display, where the second syllable is stressed and the pattern of emphasis is different from the first word. Now, when you do or talk about meter, you cannot avoid talking about metrical feet. So, feet in meter are individual units within a larger line, and each metrical foot contains a specific number of syllables which are arranged in a particular pattern of emphasis. So, meter is determined by how many times a specific foot is used within the line. Now, there are different types of meter. You have accentual meter, then you have syllabic meter, then accentual syllabic meter, falling meter, and rising meter, and lastly the common meter. I'll quickly explain all these to you briefly. Number one, accentual meter has a set count of stresses per line, regardless of how many syllables are present. Now, this type of meter is very common in nursery rhymes. Syllabic meter is a metrical pattern which is determined by a set count of syllables rather than the amount of stresses. The Japanese haiku is an example of syllabic meter. Number 3, accentual syllabic meter. Both the number of syllables and the number of stresses are consistent, and this type was the most common meter that was used in English verse. Example, Lord Tennyson's poem The Charge of the Light Brigade. Falling meter, number 4. This type of meter is written in trochees and dactyls, which have a stressed syllable followed by one or two unstressed syllables. Therefore, the meter falls from stressed to unstressed. So the children's rhyme, Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater, is an example of falling meter. Next, we have the rising meter. This type utilizes iambs and anapaests which begin with one or two unstressed syllables and end with a stressed syllable. So the meter rises from unstressed to stressed. Example is William Shakespeare's Sonnet 29. Common meter. Verse in common meter consists of 4 lines that alternate between iambic tetrameter and iambic trimester. Common meter is used not only in poetry but also in pop songs as well as in hymns like Amazing Grace. Now, why do writers use meter? Because meter adds rhythm and order to a writer's work.